We are very good at leadership in the British Army, and that's been proven over time. We have got some unacceptable behaviours, or have had them in the past, and that's something we've got to stamp out. And the Army Leadership Code, and the way it's been designed, is a tool to get rid of those behaviours.
It's surprising that we haven't written this down before, but the Army needs to move with the times. The operating context is very different to the one that perhaps we grew up in 25 to 30 years ago. And therefore we feel it's important to lay out what it is that we want people to do by way of leadership to help them have the tools that they need.
Sometimes in some areas, drinking culture, which we need to look at. There's been sexual harassment, there's been racism, and that's the sort of unacceptable behaviour that we've got to stamp out. There's no place for it in the Army. There never has been, and we've always worked hard at getting rid of it, but it's something we've really got to home in now and stop.
I don't think this is about political correctness at all, and what this is about is an institution that's very good at leadership, particularly in combat and on operations, as we've seen during the last 10 to 15 years of campaigning. It's about an organisation that understands that, also understanding that the behaviours that have been so useful on operations need to be the similar behaviours that we bring out into peacetime as well.
I think the problem is with the Army is we do have a laddish culture. We're British, there's a lot of working class people from working class backgrounds, and a young soldier that joins the Army only knows what he's been taught by his family and the people that have brought him up. So I think we are who we are and what we are. The world has moved on, society changes, and the Army has got to move with it, and that's why Chief of General Staff wants us to become a modern employer and move with everybody else.
We realise now that we're leading a slightly different generation to perhaps the one that I grew up in. They have different expectations, and they also, I think, have significant expectations of their leadership in a way that perhaps might not have been the case 20 or 30 years ago. So that's important. I think they also wish to see empowerment in a way that perhaps I didn't necessarily believe in when I was an 18-year-old. And what we've got to try and do is to move with the times, to recognise that the people we're leading now have these different expectations and meet those expectations in a positive way.
I don't think it's that difficult at all, and the reason I say that is we've got 30 Command Sergeant Majors now in a position to disseminate and pass down the information from Chief of General Staff through me, and they then, every Regimental Sergeant Major in the Army comes under that Command Sergeant Major, and we can get the message out. Soldiers relate to us because we've been soldiers, and that's the great thing about the new Command Sergeant Major concept, and certainly an Army Sergeant Major, and I think it's a great tool that the Chief of General Staff has now implemented and brought in.
And not only is the operating context evolving, so is the recruiting environment. And if we want to retain our operational edge, it's a no-brainer that we have to recruit from a wider recruiting base than we might have done in the traditional past. So that's what this is about as well.
Just to recap on the Army Leadership Code and what all of you should know already.
Whole chain of command of the Army is in Sandhurst today, looking at themselves, framing the problem, led by Chief of General Staff. Once we identify the problem, then all they can do is go out, launch the code, lead by example, which is one of the new leadership behaviours in the Army Leadership Code, and then our soldiers can follow.
Between banter